We talk about racial issues facing this country and the world, quite frankly. We talk about it every day. Boy, this is a story that is... I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous. You know, we've been talking a lot about the Confederate flag. I just wish everybody could just be logical and just agree that the Confederate flag is a bad thing and it's not good for the country. But this story just takes it to another level. It's unbelievable. And again, I'm laughing because it's so absurd. There is a Florida courthouse, the Baker County Courthouse, and there is a mural that depicts Klan, KKK riders. And it's up there in this courthouse. I'm looking at the image of it right now. These three Klan members, maybe it's a portrait of David Duke, I don't know, riding horses. And now there's an organization, the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, that is trying to take this thing down, thank God. I just want to know how this happened in the first place. So the guy joining us, he's the president of that organization. Very happy to have him on the show. His name is Mitch Stone, and he joins us right now. Mitch, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Mitch?
Good, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Sure. So Mitch, let me start by, how the hell does this mural, or whatever you want to call it, how does it even get up there in the first place? Can you give us some history on it?
Yeah, so my understanding is, and this was probably about 20 years ago, an artist from the area painted this mural, and you know, to his defense, the mural depicted a history of Baker County, which includes all the warts, as well as all the information that would go into a historical account of Baker County, I guess. But obviously, what happened was the artist was commissioned to paint the mural. The mural was then brought in and put on the second floor outside where the courtrooms are. And I don't do a lot of work in Baker County. I'm Jacksonville based, and so I cover most of North Florida, St. Augustine and Fernandina Beach, Amelia Island are places you might have heard.
Yep.
Baker County is an area where the county seat is McClenny, and small town, rural, farming based, good people. But, their history obviously is typical of the South.
Right.
And so the Klan obviously was predominant in this part of the country when it formed after Reconstruction. And so he felt it important to include the three Klansmen on horseback as part of the history of Baker County. Now, part of the equation here is the problem was that the book that kind of went with the mural provided what I would consider a false narrative, a romanticized, glorified version of what the Klan stood for. And in that respect, there was some, I guess, discussion or belief back then where because of Reconstruction and the term carpetbaggers comes to mind, all the Northerners who were down to try to maintain the Reconstruction and law and order down here included Union troops and included people who were supposed to be in charge. And according to the history, or this, what I would consider a false narrative,
right,
they weren't doing their job. So vigilante groups such as the Ku Klux Klan formed in order to, amongst other things, maintain law and order.
Gotcha.
That's just not the case.
Right. So now you have you have this mural here in this courthouse. Obviously, it is still there in Florida. So you guys come together with this. You're the president, of course, of the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. Explain to me now the steps that you are putting in place. And it's amazing to me, by the way, sir, that you have to go through these steps and that a judge can't just say, you know what, take this thing down. It represents hatred and bigotry and racism. It's amazing to me that you have to go through these steps to take what is what defies racism, the Klan. But explain to me the steps now you're going through to try to take this thing down.
Okay, well, so just for context, I can tell you that when it was first placed, the chief judge at the time looked at it and saw those images and said, I don't want people waiting to go into court and having to see, images of the Klan. And I think there's also a, Confederate flag in there somewhere, and there may be some other images of some other things that weren't appropriate for a courthouse. But so he said, I don't think it should be up here near the courtroom. So they moved it downstairs. So upon entry to the courthouse is where you see it. And that was the first thing. And like I said, I mean, you could literally walk past this thing unless you look at it. You wouldn't necessarily notice that right off the bat,
right?
Because it's a collage of a number of things that are depicted. And then a few years ago, another attorney was apparently in the courthouse trying a case and noticed it and raised it, raised the issue, and it kind of died on the vine and nothing ever happened. When I became president of the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, and I was just installed as president about 4 weeks ago, it was brought to my attention. I hadn't been to the Baker County Courthouse in a little while, so I hadn't recalled that.
Right.
It was brought to my attention that was still up, and I thought that was completely inappropriate. So I asked members of my board their thoughts, and we all agreed that it was inappropriate. And so my communications director and another board member drafted a press release, and we submitted it on Monday.
So can I ask you this? What is the African American community spoken up? I would imagine some have. What are they saying about this?
Well, and I was going to tell you because of the media attention that we received, I've been getting some phone calls and emails and texts from clients and some just people in the community. Received a Facebook message just last night, but people who are very appreciative that we are taking this up and that this is something that's important, and
Sure.
that they have felt disenfranchised and they felt that they are not empowered enough in that community to make that change.
Well,
and so they appreciate the fact that we're taking the reins and trying to make this happen.
Well, let me say this in closing, Mr. Stone. Thank you for what you're doing. You're doing the right thing, obviously. There is no place for this, in my personal opinion, anywhere, especially in a courthouse. So let me just say that. JD, you had a question before we go?
What do you think the chances are, Mitch, that this will actually be taken down?
Well, so I was going to tell you that we followed up with a letter yesterday to the chief judge, and I don't know that the chief judge is going to be the one that has the final say-so, but it is the courthouse, and we've said we're not looking to destroy a painting that depicts history. You can take that painting and put it in a museum. I said, but would you consider it appropriate to put it in your chambers or in your house, because the art that we display reflects upon us.
Right.
If people are walking into this courthouse and the first and what they notice is a glorified, romanticized vision of what the Klan represented, I said, think about what it would mean if you, as an American, were brought into a foreign court system, and as you walk into the courthouse to be tried, you notice that there's a mural glorifying the terrorists responsible for 9/11. Do you think that you would be getting a fair shake?
Right.
Do you think that there would be a feeling of angst and hopelessness? I know what I would feel like. I would think that these people hate Americans, and I have no chance. So,
and especially with a place like a public courthouse like that's in, when something is on the wall like that, you mentioned how it's glorified. It also kind of represents how things are today, and that's just not the truth at all.
Correct. And to suggest that the Klan represented some type of version of law and order for the community is just dead wrong. What they did was they removed people from jails who were set for trial. They lynched them, they burned them, they beat them, they killed them without trial, without evidence, and in some cases for no reason at all other than the color of their skin. They're a terrorist organization that were vigilantes and represented the exact opposite of what the ideals of our criminal justice system represents. And we certainly shouldn't be glorifying it, and shouldn't be represented in a courthouse. If you want to, and I've said this too, if you want to have something representative of the Klan in the courthouse, how about putting a informational display about the Klan's members who were put on trial for those murderous acts and convicted? That would be something I think people would feel a little bit more comfortable with.
Yeah.
But a mural that depicts the Klan, although very well they were part of that community and they were involved in that community, shouldn't be in the courthouse.
Can you imagine? Can I just add, in closing here, Mitch, and thank you for what you're doing again. You're doing good work here. Can you imagine all of us? Imagine being an African American. You're showing up in court for whatever reason. It could be a speeding ticket. It could be something more serious. Whatever the case may be. You show up into the courthouse, and as you're going into the courtroom, walking in with your family, you see. I'm laughing because it's ridiculous. You see a picture of. You see this picture of these 3 Klan members. To me, it's like if you're Jewish walking into the courthouse and you see a picture of Adolf Hitler. I mean, you could have the same feeling. I mean, that you know where I'm going with that. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Exactly, and I've used that example as well. And part of the pushback has been, well, it's really small, and you have to really look for it, and it's not very visible. It's not prominent, and I'm like, well, what difference does that make?
Right.
If it's there, and you then go to the explanation of why it's there, and you realize that this false narrative of history is why it's there, you would certainly be offended.
Absolutely, no question.
And if you were being judged, then you would be scared. And if you're there to judge somebody and it empowers you, then you're wrong.
Absolutely.
So the idea is that the courthouse should reflect ideals of justice and ideals of our Constitution, and not some romanticized version of a rewrite of history.
No question.
Well, have you spoken with any African American attorneys that have represented clients in that particular courthouse?
Not recently, but I think most have essentially just shaken their heads at this.
Right.
And part of the equation, and this is why maybe we are going to gain enough traction and get this done this time, is because, an attorney bringing it up, which is what happened last time a few years back, it can be dismissed as you're making a lot out of nothing here and no one else shares your views. When an organization like the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, which represents the defense lawyers that represent people who are accused of crimes and who go through that courthouse, many of which are African American.
Right.
It is on us to make sure that the perception of justice exists, and that we don't tolerate inherent bias or systemic racism, and that we do whatever we can to make sure that the system is fair and due process is granted. And it starts at the entryway of the courthouse. And if we allow something like this to be what people view upon entering the courthouse, then we're basically not doing our job.
No question. Well, let me say this again, Mitch. Thank you for what you're doing. You're certainly doing a very good thing, and we appreciate you for doing it. We hope that you're successful. Let's get this thing down, and we never want to see anything like this in a courthouse again. Mitch Stone, thank you so much for taking the time, my friend. We appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mitch.
Yep, that's Mitch Stone, the president of the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. Again, I'm laughing because I've never heard anything like this before, a picture of the Klan on horses in a courthouse. I mean, it just, I don't know. What are people thinking? How is that thing still up there?